Hello, and welcome to 6DOF Reviews. I am Pete Austin, and today it is time to get lost in space. But of course what I mean by that is it's time to crash land on a hostile, foreboding planet and be hunted by the universe's top predator. That's right, today we will be playing Alien Rogue Incursion. Now, a little bit of housekeeping to get out of the way first and foremost. This video will not be a full review as we only received access 2 days ago and it has not given us enough time to play it all the way through. I have, for the purposes of this video, played 4 hours of the game, which I believe puts me around the halfway mark, and so I can tell you what I'm thinking about the game after a good bit of time, but I am going to hold judgment and reserve my score for the full review that will come shortly after. The other thing that I think is worth noting is, as per usual, I will be reviewing this Quest version of the game completely separate from all other versions. For at least the next 24 hours, I still do not have access to any other form of VR other than standalone, so standalone shall indeed stand alone. This video is going to view the Quest 3 version completely separate of all other versions. If you are interested in seeing how it stacks up to some of the other versions, I suggest other channels may better serve you. Today is all about Quest. And with those things out of the way, let's proceed into danger. Now, I think the first thing that is absolutely worth noting about Alien Rogue Incursion is the graphics, because rather unfortunately, they're not great. I would say that perhaps being spoiled by the festival of excellence that was Metro Awakening and Batman and Behemoth, I was rather expecting that we were going to get another top-tier graphical example of just how far you can push the Quest 3. That's not the case here. It is fair to say that texturally, Alien Rogue Incursion is really quite ugly. My first 5 to 10 minutes of playtime, I was actually so distracted by how poor looking the game was that it really took away from the enjoyment for me. It is most particularly noticeable when you are confronting the titular aliens, who really should be absolutely terrifying, and in some ways really, really are, but there are so many graphical glitches with them. Their animations and the way they interact with certain surfaces are so janky in places that it can go as far as to completely break the tension that has otherwise been well wrought. That said, let's go back to the beginning. Alien Rogue Incursion is not a roguelite, as many people feared. It is a full story-driven campaign, and it is in fact only part of the overall story. Clocking in, from what I've heard, at around 7 to 8 hours. The game will then go on in a sequel, in a part 2, that will conclude the story. The narrative, the voice performances are really good. It's nothing earth-shattering, it's nothing that's going to revolutionize storytelling in video games, but it is thoroughly enjoyable. You find yourself crash-landed on a deserted facility, you don't know what's going on, things are clearly not right, and then you encounter fairly early on the Xenomorph, and hijinks ensue. I'm not going to tell you any of the key story points beyond that, other than to say that at first I found the game a little bit monotonous, a little bit, reminded me of Genotype a little bit, in terms of I'm lost in a abandoned facility, walking through endless corridors being hunted by aliens, and then a few things happen, some story points, some gameplay points, no spoilers, but I found quite soon in the game things got a little bit spicier and I really started to enjoy it a lot more. So in terms of gameplay feel, we are looking somewhere between the original Alien movie and the second Aliens movie. In terms of, it is definitely more of an action game than it is a hide-and-seek thriller with 1 or 2 aliens hunting you to your death, but it is not after the fall style waves and waves of enemies coming at you. It sort of sits somewhere in between. There is a wonderful sense of tension, and I've got to say that for all the lacking graphics and the fact that the graphics really do let the immersion and tension down, the sound design almost does enough to completely counteract that. Sound design is really great. It keeps you on your toes. The elements whereby the aliens are scuttering around in the ceiling and they could come at you from everywhere, and you are driven through this world by sound as much as sight, is really excellent. It's not so creepy as to be a horror game. If it was, I probably wouldn't have been able to play it, but it has just that right amount of tension that makes you feel just a little uncomfortable the whole way through playing it, knowing that attacks could come from anywhere, and you really have to stay on your toes. So that element of the gameplay works really, really well. The gun mechanics are a little odd, and I still don't know for sure how I feel about them, even after 3 to 4 hours of gameplay. There is this weird thing that I've not seen in any other game, where if you hold the gun at a certain point, it almost locks into place. So it locks against your shoulder, and sort of only your forward hand really maneuvers the gun. It's really easy to get past this, like you can just reposition yourself, but it's really disconcerting. I guess it's there to guide you and help you aim a little bit, but I've never seen another game do it before, and it didn't feel quite right. Like, the aim that it was trying to give me felt unnatural to how I would usually play the game, and because of that, I found myself really railing against it rather than embracing it. So I still don't know for sure how I feel about that. The other things that I will say at this early point, at the halfway point, is that I do have some concerns around how repetitious it's going to be, and there is an element of the franchise, this game, being actually propped up by the franchise, by the source material, but also held back by it at the same time. And by that I mean the enemy variety is almost non-existent. You wouldn't necessarily expect that they would just invent random new creatures to throw into this very well-established world, but what it does mean is you are shopping from a very empty shelf in terms of enemy types that exist within this particular IP. So it does get a bit repetitive after a while. The other thing is, I have not yet encountered large amounts of these enemies. I don't think I've ever seen more than 3 on the screen at any given time. It's definitely not like those scenes in the second movie in Aliens where there's just they're coming at you from everywhere and you're blasting away. Like, it is a much smaller cohort of baddies that you need to dispatch at any one time, and that's a little underwhelming. I was really hoping for some of those Aliens style movie moments. Game over, man. That's it. Game over. And it didn't quite deliver on that. Also, from a weapon selection point of view, again, I'm only halfway through. I have only 4 available weapons. That's including explosives. And it seems to be that that's all I'm going to get throughout the entire game. So, look, it fits within the story. It fits within the world that they've built. But we are spoiled gamers, aren't we? We are entitled. And we are at a point where we're used to having many enemy types to keep the combat varied and many weapon types to do the same thing. What Alien does really well is stay true to the design, to the world of the IP, but it is, as a result, slightly limited by that envelope within which it's working. So just to summate now, before I go back and play the other half of the game, Alien Rogue Incursion is a disappointingly ugly game that is, in fact, graphically just below the benchmark of maintaining immersion. It is occasionally distracting, particularly when facing off aliens. That it can be really, really disappointing. But atmosphere, sound design, narrative, and adherence to the lore and the world of the Alien IP is really quite good, and it balances out to a point where I'm very happy to continue playing the game. The initial disappointments haven't got me to the point where I'm like, I don't even want to play this anymore, or I'd rather play it in a different format. I just feel like this is probably the weakest of the ways that you can play this game. So with that all said, I'm going to save a few other nuggets of juicy truth for the full review, which I will have for you absolutely as soon as I possibly can. In the meantime, if you've enjoyed the channel, please do like and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next exciting adventure of Pete Gets Hunted by Xenomorphs. Until next time, Happy gaming!